Every single human being on the planet has this. It is the one thing, maybe, that is a sure fact. We all have a mother. Maybe a mother figure, maybe a mother in our life, but someone birthed you at some point. If you have a mother, I've got a message for you. If you are a mother, I've got encouragement for you. Welcome to this Acts episode, this special edition on Mother's Day. Hey everybody, my name is Eric Samuel Timm. Welcome to the Acts Cast here at the Acts Academy. The Acts Academy is simply a leadership development platform that invests in you, specifically 7 areas that I think are crucial for your growth and our quote-unquote success in whatever it is we're blazing a trail forward to do. Check out theaxacademy.com. If you currently do support the Acts Academy, thank you for your support. We couldn't do it without you. It exists because of people like you. Let's talk a little bit about mothers. Well, let's talk a little bit first what it takes to become a mother. I remember very early on being exposed to this reality. I was in college at the Hennepin County Medical Center. I had a job. It was really close to North Central University, where I got my undergraduate from, and I got a great job serving food. Essentially, the guy that walks in at night, gives you your tray of food, picks it up, and then comes back and really collects it. Now, there was some of the things that were complicated about it. You had to make sure you had the right diet for the right person. I'll tell the story one time when I walked into a room with a very contagious skin disease, and then I actually had to put this cream all over my body, and then there was a fire alarm that was pulled at school, and I don't really want to talk about it. But I remember serving food one night in one part of the hospital called the OBGYN. It's basically for ladies and the woman parts and baby parts, and it's all of this together, but it's usually where people are waiting to give birth. I saw this one lady. I kind of gave her a nod. She was walking on a very remote part of the hospital where the rooms hadn't been filled, and she was clearly pregnant. I heard this visible scream after I was walking away down this sort of dimly lit hall. It was the lady. I ran back to where she was. And she's on the ground with this IV and that little cart that she's pushing along. And she's laying there, and then liquid like blood and water start to flow out from underneath her. I can only just get a couple words out, and it's just like, baby, water. I take off running back to the nurse's desk as fast as I can. And I get to the nurse's stand. I'm out of breath, and I'm sort of spitting out sentence fragments. And it probably was a lot like what I initially said when I was with the lady, just baby, water. The nurse grabbed a bunch of towels. They got on the paging system, and she said, "Where is she?" And I ran down to show her where this woman was. We got to this moment where I felt like time sort of stood still, because the nurse flipped up this lady's gown, and in an instant, I was at the front row seat of health class. The video that you might have had to watch about babies being born? Well, it wasn't a video. I was experiencing the live play. Like right there, unedited, in all of its glory, a baby was being born. The nurse said, "Here, hold this." Handed me this lady's leg. I'm holding this lady's leg, and she says, "Okay, this lady's going to give birth to this baby. We can't move her. This baby's coming." Other nurses are coming. The doctor shows up. I'm holding this woman's leg, and this woman gives birth. I'm in Bible college. I'm not supposed to be here right now. This is not my job. I was delivering Salisbury steak over to room 2B, and now I'm giving birth to this baby. And she's yelling in Spanish or speaking in tongues. I'm not sure, but I am afraid that this is scarring me for life, which it has. I can't unsee. But this lady with the blood, sweat, and the grit, the tears and the drama and the toiling, gives birth to this little baby boy right in front of me. I couldn't even hold back my own tears. It was unbelievable. And it took work. A lot of work. My friends recently went through a process of adoption, months and months of meetings and screenings and financial fundraisers, Kickstarters, and all of the rest of it, until, by law, a child that wasn't their own by birth now became theirs. Not flesh and blood, but something maybe even deeper. Adoption. The picture that they sent to me was just amazing, really. You think about the process that it takes to adopt a human being, especially from another country, maybe even in our own backyard, and that spirit of adoption, that taking on what wasn't ours to be ours. It's unbelievable, but it's work. I have a loved one that's in my family that lost a child to a very rare disease. And it was one of these moments in history as a family where we were really, frankly, tested. She gave birth, and it was beautiful, but this child didn't survive. This disease, this anomaly in the DNA of the child would allow it to be born, but once outside the womb, it just wouldn't survive. Watching my own family member move on after the loss of that child, continuing to be a mom, it's unbelievable. And it's taken work. I remember seeing Michael Keaton in the movie Mr. Mom, and it was just a movie until I had 3 kids. Me, my son, my daughter, and my other son. And it was just something that I would watch. And it's this idea where Michael Keaton has this motherly side and his wife goes and does this job and he's now with the kids and it's the role reverse, all, back together. And let me simply say, when my wife goes to Target and I'm stuck with the 3 kids for more than an hour, I actually think it's unbelievable because it takes work to even pretend to be mom. When I was in Africa as a boy, I was offered something I never thought I would be offered. When I was leaving this small village, a woman came up to me and through a translator essentially offered for me to take one of her children with. I still look back on that moment and I'm overwhelmed with that decision. Sometimes mothers have to choose what they don't want to choose, but what's best for their kids. It's unbelievable. It takes work. So all of these stories remind me on Mother's Day. All of these stories remind me the other 364 days of the year that being a mother, becoming a mother, moving on from being a mother at one time, maybe even being like a mother, choosing to mother, honoring like a mother does. What it reminds me of is it just takes so much work. Sweat, blood, tears, and grit. There's a Jewish proverb I love. God couldn't be everywhere and do everything, so he simply created mothers. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. If you have a mother, make sure that you thank her for her work. It is the reason why you're here. But I think every single one of us can learn from what mothers are, and those that really are mothers can be encouraged with, I think, 3 characteristics of being a mother. I want to give you 3 thoughts about your mom, or if you are a mom, what it takes to be a mom. First, National Geographic did a story about a baby chick and a mother hen. The story goes where this mother hen really rescued its baby chick by hiding it underneath its wing, and then this inferno blaze forest fire ripped through this farm, killing the actual mother hen But the firefighter on the scene peels back the crusted, charred feathers of this mother hen only to reveal this baby chick is actually safe. Amazing story. A mother's hen wing protecting a baby from an inferno, and then the baby chick survives? Unbelievable. But it turned out to be false. They actually had to go back, and the editor had to say, it's not true. It actually was false. There's a lady named Erin in the news that shuffled along with her 7-year-old son, Ezra, her 5-year-old daughter, Selah, and they were on a pedestrian bridge in Menasha, Wisconsin, and a gunman out of nowhere randomly opened fire. Now, this gunman killed her husband and her 11-year-old daughter. However, what she did was, as she was struck with 3 bullets to her own body, literally shuffled these kids underneath her wings from the firefight that was beyond her. And those children were actually saved. So maybe that mother hen story is true. I mean, we can never really underestimate the power that a mother has, that desire to protect her children. To have 3 gunshot wounds and be able to get off that bridge and save 2 of her own kids, it's actually incredible to think about. That's why I think mothers are a lot like borders. They protect us. A great mother will always protect you. Now, what I find so interesting is the word for border in Hebrew. Now, there's some numerics here that I'd like to dissect, but really what you need to know is the numeric value of the Hebrew word for border. It's the exact same value of the word for mother. Both of them equal 41. I find that very interesting, especially in Exodus 6, when you read about Jochebed and how she was a border. Or in John 8, I think moms are a lot like that. Great moms are that border, are that protection, are that wing over those chicks, maybe even down to the value of the numeric word in Hebrew. We kind of get a glimpse of what it takes to really be a mom. So moms, I would say this. If you're out there, maybe even in death, but for life for someone else, your ability to die is not of you. It's a gift. It's who you really are. And if you have a mom and you're out there, you need to know that your mom is like a border. How many bullets, how many fires, how many stones, how many pains have never even reached you because of her? I think moms are a lot like borders. All right, let's talk about oysters. First of all, oyster science is interesting. It's actually a little weird. Oysters are delicious for some. For some, they're repulsive. For me personally, I think they're amazing. But they're bivalves, which means there's a shell. It's really made up of 2 parts, or valves, thus bivalves. That's why they're called that. The shell's valves are held together by a ligament. It's like basically the elastic in your underwear. This ligament, it's positioned where the 2 valves come together, and obviously it can open or close, so the oyster can have an ability to open or close its shell. There are 3 main parts of an oyster. Actually inside the shell. So what you need to know is there's a mantle, and as the oyster grows, the shell also must grow. I know this is really crazy, but the mantle is actually this organ that produces this oyster's shell. So it uses minerals from the water, from the oyster's food, and it makes that actual shell that's around that oyster. It makes that, what we would look at, on a seashore, or a clam or that thing that's holding all that gelatinous goodness at your seafood shop. Now, that material that's actually created by the mantle is called nacre, and it's actually spelled Nacre, nacre, and that actually lines the inside of the shell as it works its way out. Now, here's what happens. You know, pearls come from oysters. So it's important to know these valves, it's important to know the mantle, and it's important to know this substance called nacre that's used to make that shell. The formation of a natural pearl really begins when a foreign substance, it slips into the oyster between the mantle and the shell, and it starts to irritate the oyster. It's kind of like us getting a splinter. If you've ever been working with lumber and you get that splinter, it's in between your skin and the atmosphere, and it really starts to irritate you. Well, the oyster actually keeps this tiny pebble, much like a rock. It doesn't spit it out. It actually starts to coat it through this process, and it eventually becomes a pearl. It takes this pebble, this tiny contaminant, and it coats it and it coats it with nacre until this dirt, this grain of sand, this irritant actually becomes something of beauty and worth. I find this so profound because I am convinced that mothers are a lot like oysters. Now, Jesus talks about this in Matthew 7, and he really encounters a woman in adultery, and rocks are dropped. And I think pearls are exchanged in a sense. Maybe not to this parallel or direct application to this story, but the stones of irritation or judgment actually are to be set down. I think mothers really do this. I think mothers are a lot like oysters. They take the rocks of judgment that would come our way from others, those irritants that are out there, and they hold on to them and they release them into our life as something as value. I've seen this with my own wife when we go to a parent-teacher conference. Like, the teacher tells Danielle and I about what our kids need to do better or what they're doing right in those problem areas in their own personalities or developments or situations. My wife has such a unique ability to take these little irritants, these little rocks, and make pearls out of these stones. Like they become life lessons. Now, something I'll say to the mothers that are out there, this will take some patience, okay? It'll take some patience in this process for you to make pearls. And moms, if your kids are there and they're that irritant and the patience is gone, a lot of time it's because the pace is too hurried. But when we've got the right patience, it's because we've had the right pace, and then those problems really become pearls or teaching moments. So moms, let me encourage you, patience in your children is never really the goal. It might not even be obtainable. One thing I'll say to you moms is just perfection in your patience always helps them get closer. Your patience, moms, makes those pearls. And I think really impatience just spits rocks. I think moms are like an oyster because you keep giving us something of value. Now, one thing I have a question about is really, where did Jesus, how to respond to this woman at the well in the way that he did? Maybe from his mother, maybe from her mother, or maybe her mother. So if you really trace that moment back, or that question in that moment, where did Jesus learn how to respond like that? Let's go back to Ruth. Ruth 2 specifically. If you don't have a Bible, I say it all the time, stay at a hotel. There's one in the drawer. Ruth 2. As she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his crew, Let her go over there and get the wheat that she wants. Even pull out some stalks from the bundles. Make it easy for her to pick it up and leave her alone. Don't rebuke her. You see, Boaz in that moment, as the story goes, is really being, well, actually kind to Ruth. Didn't have to. Culturally, definitely didn't have to. And this rat hole is pretty deep. But the question really remains, where did Jesus learn how to do this? How to respond that way? Well, I'm convinced that you start tracing this back to Ruth, and you finally get to this story of Boaz, and you got to ask yourself, where did Boaz learn how to be so kind to Ruth? Well, we don't know who Boaz's father is, but we do know who Boaz's mother was. Her name was Rahab, and she received grace. She exchanged rocks for pearls. I think she was an oyster. One last thought why I think moms are like shovels and seeds. There's a story of a Shunammite woman in 2 Kings 4. She has a child. The kid gets a headache while he's out in the field, and he comes up to his dad, and he's like, "Dad, my head is killing me." And the father actually says to his servant, "Go take him to his mom." Now, I find that so interesting because I've actually done that. When my kids need something, I send them to mom. It sometimes has been a reaction that I have just sort of maybe even not even thought through, but just sort of comes out. And I say, "Hey, go ask your mom. Go talk to your mom. I can't go. Just go get over to mom. She'll take care of it." Why is that? Because I'm convinced that mothers are a lot like shovels and seeds. They dig deep into every one of their kids, and they deposit those seeds of grace. And then it shows up. When it really matters, we know where to go. When it really is on the line, we know where to send people. It's that moment where, because of how they dig, what they plant, it bears fruit. And when you need it, it's there. I'm convinced, moms that are out there, when you are living truly in your identity as a mother, you are a boarder because you're willing and gifted to pay the cost. You're really an oyster because you make pearls from stones that the world throws at your kids with patience. You're that shovel that digs into each heart and plants those seeds of life. So I honor you and say Happy Mother's Day. It's not just one day, it's every day. And we're here because of you. Now, if you have a mother out there, make sure that this Mother's Day you honor that boarder, that oyster, that gardener of grace within you today. Something simple? Well, I think Proverbs 18:21. Power of life and death is really in the tongue. This is a chance to maybe say what you need to say, that some card maybe tries to capture in a limerick, but maybe this Mother's Day, you be the poet. Maybe you need to call mom today. Write mom. Maybe you're even visiting mom in this moment. Maybe mom is gone and the memory of her still remains. And the reason why you're here is because she once was. I don't know what it is, but maybe in this moment you can use your words and you can be the poet. You can be the one that says how special she really is. But you don't understand, Eric. My mom, I don't have a great relationship with her. She wasn't a great mom. She actually failed in my book. And that may be true. And that may be something that you're still carrying. But I will say this. In my life, I have learned I don't honor people because they're honorable all the time. I do my best to honor because all the time, I want to be a person of honor. Sometimes it comes at a cost. I don't know what it is, but maybe that situation, you could take one step closer to healing on this day by using the power of your words for your oyster, your boarder, your guardian and planter of that grace, however big, however small, in your life today. If you're a mom out there, thanks for doing the work. that none of us can. Thanks for being a border for us when we need it most. Thanks for taking the rocks of the world and holding them and giving them to us as pearls of wisdom, those teachable moments. Thanks for being seeds deep within that grow into fruit. When it really matters most, we know where to get it because it's been dug and planted so deep within each of us. Being a mom takes a lot of things, but becoming a mom, you gotta be a border. You're always gonna be an oyster, and you're more like a seed that's been planted by a shovel. Happy Mother's Day.